Hello, everyone. Today we are taking a deep dive into this Financial Times story. ECB steps up its challenge to Visa and Mastercard. We are going to break down exactly what happened here and what the real risks are that every investor should know about. But before that, you are watching Let's Decode the News, where we take the biggest business and finance stories and decode them so anyone can understand. If you are not subscribed yet, hit that button right now. So let us get into it. The European Central Bank has stepped up its challenge to US payment groups such as Visa and Mastercard. And look, right away, this is not a small story. The European Central Bank is one of the most powerful financial institutions on the planet. And when they decide to take on two American payment giants directly, that is worth stopping and paying attention to. Visa and Mastercard between them touch almost every digital transaction on Earth. So when Europe says we are stepping up our challenge, that word challenge is doing a lot of heavy lifting by agreeing technology rules that will pave the way for the rollout of a digital version of the euro. Now think about what that actually means for a second. Technology rules might seem boring, but rules are what decide who wins and who loses in payments. Whoever sets the technical standard controls the infrastructure, and whoever controls the infrastructure collects the fees. Europe just decided they want that control back. That is the real story underneath this headline. Now here is the number that changed everything for me. Currently, 2/3 of card payments in the eurozone are processed by international schemes, largely controlled by US companies. And honestly, that number genuinely surprised me the first time I read it. This is not a small developing market that relies on foreign payment systems. This is the eurozone, 21 countries, hundreds of millions of people, one of the wealthiest economic regions on Earth. And they do not control the majority of their own payment infrastructure. That is a significant vulnerability, and European policymakers have clearly decided enough is enough. And many European countries lack any local alternative. So here is why that matters more than it sounds. This is not just about competition, it is about dependence. If you have no local alternative and the foreign system goes down, raises its fees, or gets caught in a political dispute, you have no backup. Europe has been in that position for years. The digital euro is their way of building that backup and making sure it never happens again. Here is where things get really interesting. If the digital euro becomes legal tender, private payments firms will have to add the ECB-endorsed technology standards to card readers and other infrastructure. Right, so legal tender changes everything, because legal tender is not optional. If something is legal tender, merchants are required to accept it. So Europe is not just asking nicely. They are building a system that, if this legislation passes, every terminal, every card reader, every point of sale device in 21 countries would have to support. That is not competition. That is a mandate, paving the way for widespread usage in the 21 countries that use the euro. And think about that scale for a moment. 21 countries all at once. Not a pilot, not a trial run in one city, the entire eurozone. If this lands the way the European Central Bank wants it to, the reach would be enormous from day one. That is the kind of scale that keeps payments executives up at night. But here is the line that really stopped me. The ECB-approved card payment rules are intended to rival existing ones set by a group of 6 US firms, including Visa and Mastercard. Okay, so this is not just a digital currency project anymore. This is a direct standards war. Right now, the technical rules that make your card work at a terminal are set by a California-based group controlled by American companies. Europe has now picked their own set of rules defined by European organizations. This is a fight over who writes the rulebook. And whoever writes the rulebook gets to decide who pays what. That means users are charged fees to use their standards. The European alternative will be free of charge for users. And look at that last part. Free. That one word is the most important word in this entire story for investors, because fee revenue from standards and infrastructure is a quiet but very real part of how these payment networks make money. Europe is now offering that same infrastructure for free. That is not just competition on price, that is undercutting the entire model. Now this is the part most people skip over. While the European Commission and European Union governments are fully backing the ECB's plan for a digital euro, the idea is heavily contested in the European Parliament. So here is the thing. The support is not unanimous, not even close. The European Commission is on board. European Union governments are on board. But the European Parliament, which actually needs to vote yes for this to become law, is still divided. And a divided parliament means delays. It means negotiation. It means the 2029 timeline is more of a target than a guarantee, which needs to vote in favor to make it happen. And that vote is coming this summer. Honestly, this is the single biggest wild card in this entire story. Because if the parliament says no, or even pushes back significantly, the whole timeline shifts. Everything the European Central Bank announced this week becomes background noise until that vote lands. And then there is this. Leading European banks and payments providers are also skeptical as they claim that a digital euro would offer few additional benefits but could undermine private sector initiatives such as Wero, which also tries to rival Visa and Mastercard. So here's what nobody is really talking about. Even Europe's own banks are not fully behind this. They have their own competing product called Wero, which is also trying to take on Visa and Mastercard. So now you have got the European Central Bank, European banks, and American payment giants all fighting over the same turf. That is a complicated three-way dynamic. And when that many interests are pulling in different directions, progress tends to slow down. That is exactly where my take comes in. But real quick before I give you my take, this video is for educational purposes only, not financial advice. Always do your own research before making any investment decisions. So, here is what I genuinely think about all of this. Visa and Mastercard are remarkable businesses. They are consistent, they are asset-light, and they print money in almost every economic environment. But they have always had one vulnerability that does not get talked about enough. And that is what happens when a government decides the payments infrastructure is too important to stay in private hands. Europe is making that call right now. Loudly, officially, with contracts signed and deadlines set. Does that mean you sell Visa tomorrow? No. These companies have moats that took decades to build. They have global scale, brand trust, and relationships that do not disappear overnight. But here's the thing. The direction of travel in Europe is now very clear, and long-term structural headwinds have a way of showing up in earnings calls before they show up in stock prices. The moat is still wide. But someone just picked up a shovel on the other side. If this breakdown was useful, please hit the like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people. Subscribe if you are not already. And drop your answer in the comments. Do you think the digital euro actually hits that 2029 deadline? Or does European politics slow this down again like it always does? I want to hear your honest take.